right, now on Triad today, just about time for the roundtable. On my right, but always the political left, Ogie Overman. Our special guest filling in for Keith today, Rosemary Plyman, the great broadcaster and communicator, and we've held David Daggett over from a previous segment. And I like to call this grouping a rose between two thorns. Very poetic, wasn't it?
That's good, yeah.
All right, here we go. All right, first topic. The city of Greensboro plans to be car optional by the year 2045 by revamping and optimizing public transportation. Guys and gals, you think people will be ready to give up their cars in 20 years, Ogie?
Not a chance.
You don't think so?
Not one chance in a zillion. What more likely, we'll have driverless cars by then.
Driverless cars.
Yes, I'm for
Rosemary,
that.
you think people
I was ready to give up my car 10 years ago. Yes.
No.
Yes. Drive me around. I would love to be able to have public transportation that can really get me in a timely fashion where I want to go.
All right.
Very aspirational. But we were talking about this in 20 years ago,
Right.
by 2025.
Yeah.
And it's not going to happen by 2045 either.
All right, so far this year, North Carolinians have spent $6 billion on sports betting. Now, I'm not talking about the lottery, I'm talking about sports betting. While only $2 million of that total is spent each year on resources for people with a gambling problem. $6 billion spent, $2 million allocated to this. Should taxpayers spend more, less, or no money at all to help gambling addicts? Ogie.
Well, it's going to happen whether it comes from taxpayers or the DraftKings and all of those sports betting outlets. They're going to have to kick in a lot of money. I mean, I know a little bit about addiction. I'm not a gambling addiction, but I know.
Right, I know.
I know people who have got it bad.
But is it my responsibility to help you with a gambling addiction?
I like his idea about the actual companies that are doing the betting and profiting off it to have to kick some back. Sort of like tobacco companies having to print warning labels and that type of thing.
David.
Yeah, the gambling industry is exploding right now. I think we're going to see the problems from that explode also. We better have a way to deal with it.
The North Carolina Senate just proposed a bill that would allow private school employees and their volunteers to be armed on campus and in chapel for religious schools. And we talked about this in general terms, but now this is an actual piece of legislation for private schools. These folks would be required to have a concealed weapon permit and undergone 8 hours of gun safety classes. Good idea or bad idea, Ogie?
How many years we've been talking about this, Jim?
A lot.
I mean, it just
But now
gets
it's
worse and worse and worse. The worst thing you can do is arm your teachers and your people and the chaplain
and volunteers.
Yeah.
All right. Ogie's phone somebody's calling Ogie right now, and
Damn it.
Must be important.
that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Well, he finished his answer anyway. All right, go ahead.
Well, I mean, no. I mean, it is not a good idea. Of course not. I mean, and the concern, of course, is not only the teachers having them, but then if it gets into the wrong hands of a child or the person who breaks in, unfortunately.
David.
I am all for gun rights, but this isn't gun rights. This is crazy. If we're going to start arming people everywhere we go, we're back to the wild, wild west in a lawless society.
Absolutely. I hope that wasn't like somebody calling you from the legislature.
I'm sorry, Jim.
No, that's all right.
I knew it would happen.
What?
The
No.
one time
They
that I
could-
leave my phone.
No, they knew. They knew you were, saying something about it. All right, following a number of raucous public meetings, Speaker Mike Johnson's advised all Republican congressmen to stop holding town halls because too many people are showing up to protest Trump. Regardless of political party, do elected officials, you all think elected officials have an obligation to meet with tax-paying public, even if the public's angry, Ogie?
Well, they do, but that doesn't matter to them. I mean, it just doesn't matter. But yeah, I love these demonstrations. We had a good one in Greensboro last
What about it? We have an obligation for them to meet
Well,
with
I
us?
mean, I think yes, morally yes. It doesn't mean they have a legal obligation, but I wouldn't mind that if that were. They do have to answer these people, but then again, the voters have to make decisions, and if their representatives won't meet with them, then that should be something they take into consideration.
Historically, free press and free speech was based on the marketplace of free ideas, and the truth would eventually bubble to the top. If we don't have public forums, we're limiting the ability for the truth to
Right.
bubble up.
All right, very quickly, last week, 3 Triad area state representatives introduced a bill to study the possibility of reviving passenger rail service between the 3 Triad cities. Very quickly, will that rail service become a reality anytime soon, Ogie?
I think it could. I mean, I know that public transportation is kind of a different issue. still something romantic about trains.
I agree.
Really is.
I
Rosemary.
don't want to drive, but I'll get on the train.
David.
Very aspirational. Again, I would love it 100%. But just like the driverless cars in 2045, we were talking about this same issue 20 years ago.
Yeah.
You're right.
We've made no progress.
Finally, scientists at the University of Stockholm have discovered that female flies, who studies these? Female flies can actually make themselves look more decorative in order to control the male flies. Guys and gals, I got to mix this question up. Ogie, have you ever felt controlled by a female?
Well, and looking back on it, I may have been.
You may have. Yeah. Rosemary, I'll adapt this for you.
Watch my finger very.
Rosemary, have you ever controlled a male?
Not intentionally, but not that I know of.
David, have you ever been controlled
I
by?
am under the spell right now. Between Rosemary and my wife, I'm under a spell.
All right. Well, we know the truth now. That's all the time we have. I'm Jim Longworth. We'll see you next week.